everyone. Today I've got the wonderful Lydia Lyte with us. Lydia, please could you introduce yourself and share how you were drawn to Avalon?
I'm Lydia Lyte. I'm known as a ceremonial and ritual drummer. I'm a musician. And how did I come to Avalon? Well, Glastonbury and Avalon has always existed for me in my consciousness. And in the practical terms, I first came here with Arabella Churchill when she did her first ever Children's World Festival in the Abbey Park. And I was part of a theatre group and we were performing The Field of Gold. We came down from Hereford. We were about to go off and retire forever to France and America and what have you, but we went up the tour and I looked at it and I thought, if I ever come back to England, I guess it'll be here to Glastonbury. Well, it wasn't long before, a few years later, we were drawn back again, this time to put the children into school, because we had a school bus down in the south of France and we had kids in the school bus. But they wanted proper education. They got to that age. I was with my friend Alex Manzi-Fay and we were saying, okay, we've got to leave the Dordogne and leave the south of France and go and look for a place to put the kids into school. We thought Bristol. As it was, we received 3 postcards of the Abbey within a week, exactly the same picture. So, as the advance guard of our group, we came in a VW bus with 2 kids and we came to Glastonbury where our friends were who had been living outside Hereford in Galway and Wormlow Tump and near Kilpeck Church and near St Michael's, always around Templar sites and sacred sites, basically, always drawn to those places. So that's how I came to Avalon, to Glastonbury. Glastonbury has always existed in my consciousness. As a child, when I was 7, I got an abscess in my ear and was very ill, was in bed for 7 days, and in those days, if you were ill, you stayed in bed. There was no TV or anything like that upstairs, you stayed in bed until you were better. I was reading a book about Arthur and the Knights, and during those 7 days of delirium, I was just dreaming. I was with Arthur and the Knights, and I was one of them. So Avalon has always existed. And we just kept bouncing back and forth between various sites in France and here, and America and here. And that's firstly how I came here, and I lived out in Butley at the Dove Centre, which was beautiful. And we continued with music and all sorts of spirituality. One of the first things that happened when we came was I met Stanley Messenger, who came along and said, "My dear, how wonderful to meet you again." And I said, because he was an old Cathar and he recognised myself and my others as Cathars. So this was a deep ongoing story at the time. The other thing that was interesting about coming to Glastonbury was that while we were in the south of France, down at Rennes-le-Château, there's a woman there called Elizabeth Van Buren, and she had written a book about the Star Temple in the landscape around La Val-Dieu. The first thing we had done was truck round all of this Star Temple. So when we came here and found out that that Catherine Maltwood had written a book on the ancient Star Temple, around Avalon. It was a mirror image. And so every weekend we piled ourselves into the V-dub and we went to every single point on the Zodiac around Glastonbury. And between that and talking to people like Stanley Messenger and starting up the first Earth Mysteries with Zig London, Paldon Jenkins, all of these people, Oak Dragon, there was a lot going on. We were very happy. And of course there was Greenham Common, which was also a big thing. While I was living in France, there had been a time when I thought, okay, we're creating our own reality. And we went into one of the Cathar caves, a long way from anywhere, in the south of France. And the guide said, this used to be a beautiful cathedral cavern, but if you look, you can see the pollution running down the walls. And we realised that we were 60 kilometres from the nearest town in any direction. And it became clear to me that the world that I wished to live in was going to go. So another reason for coming back to Britain was to have the right to vote and to have the right to have a voice in order to work for the environment and the beautiful world. Glastonbury in Avalon is the place Spirit decided I should be to do this. So that is what drew me to Avalon.
How do you experience and express your spiritual path in Avalon day to day?
Being in Avalon, being in Glastonbury, my outer expression or my inner expression is the drumming. I'm very pleased to be an independent bard and a troubadour, which enables me to work with many different groups, many different formats. And the lovely thing is I do not have to get involved in the isms. Isms in groups become very formal and people start arguing. This is part of the ism and this isn't part of the ism. That used to be the ism, but now it's not the ism. So I really feel blessed to be recognised as a bard and a drummer and a musician in my own right. Being in Glastonbury, what does it do for me? The main thing about living in Glastonbury, if you live here a long time, is that we are here to maintain the balance. All sacred sites just need energy holders, not too light, not too dark. Just hold the balance and hold the open heart space. Look for the rainbow path. And that, for all the people who live here a long time, is actually the work that we find ourselves doing.
When we say goddess or divine feminine, what does that mean for you?
Well, for me, the goddess is everything. The planet we live on, every life form, all of the 9 worlds of Grandmother Earth. The great star goddess, it is she who has the void, and from that void the spark of creation is born. So the great mother, everything in the first place is of the goddess. As the First Nations say, everything in the first place is born of woman. And along with that, I would just like to say that I've heard things in recent times which I never thought I would hear from the present Archbishop, from various priests and priestesses from the Christian orders, and even from our present Pope himself, where they talk about the mother matrix of God. That's a wonderful way of showing this recognition that the goddess, in essence, is in everything and is in all and is all. And the mother matrix of God is great. As many small children have said to me, even the big God has a mummy, and we better watch out for her then.
This year at the Goddess Conference, the theme is the Sovereign Lady of Avalon. What does sovereignty mean to you, and how does living in Avalon empower you in your sovereignty?
Sovereignty. Well, here in Britain, for better or for worse, we have lived under a queen for many years. This is a wonderful thing, because yet again it reflects the truth of the land, of the caring. So sovereignty. Being my own person. Many people find it very, very difficult to take responsibility. That's why they have to have a boss, a government, somebody or someone or something they can say, it's their fault, their responsibility, not mine. And the beauty of living in Avalon, it is the mirror of Avalon, which sooner or later, whether one accepts it or not, or is dragged, kicking and screaming, to recognise that the mirror of the self, shame and blame effectively are always off the track. How we respond, how we react to a situation in the moment, that is totally our own responsibility, for better or for worse. And the mirror of Avalon is held up like this, and you're looking at yourself. And remembering that Avalon is, in essence, made of myth and legend and archetypes. That's where Arthur and the knights come in, because they are archetypes. And one time I was in the middle of quite funny really, I was in the middle of yet another broken love affair. And I looked in the mirror and I said to myself, I'm lost without you. And then there was that moment and I went, I am lost without me. Not you, the errant lover. I'm lost without me. Without me, I can offer nothing. I need to be myself. So at that point, I actually had a thing about Lancelot, going back to the childhood experience, where I ran about rescuing women and children who in reality didn't really need rescuing. And I was able to say to Lancelot, Lancelot, you've taught me a lot, and I renounce you, as far as I'm able. However, something about all of that, the Templars, the Cathars, and being a knight, has meant that at this time I am the sword bearer for Glastonbury and for Avalon, and very privileged and honoured that since 2012 I've held that position with the town council and with the church. I actually became sword bearer in 2005 for the Druids and for the Bardic College on the tour, and I have renounced that several times and it's been returned to me. So it's a lovely thing.
If that's not a sign from Avalon, I don't know what is.
Yeah. Yes, there's a lot there. I feel the main thing about carrying the sword of peace is this. On my right is the exquisite sword of truth and justice and light, which very quickly can become fascism. And on my left is the exquisite black sword of power over, for the good of all, of course. I pick up neither. We walk the rainbow way, the rainbow path, and in terms of evolution of humanity, that is where we are. We are learning to disengage from the battle of the great opposites and to form the new evolutionary path of the middle way, which is the rainbow path in essence. And that's where we're at. And the person I will attribute to having really brought that in is Desmond Tutu in South Africa. He was the first person to really take that reconciliation from so much pain, so much trauma, so much injustice, right, wrong, right, left, black, white, the great pillars as you see in the tarot. The priestess stands in between. The middle way, the middle path, the path of the heart. I truly believe that living in Avalon and all my experiences have led me to attempt to walk that path, for better or for worse.
Lydia, thank you. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your words. On behalf of everyone that watches, thank you. And we can't wait to meet you at the conference.
Great, thank you. You're lovely. Thank you.